Have you ever wondered why two seemingly similar people can look at the exact same offer and walk away with completely different decisions? Or why a person is willing to pay more for a product when a cheaper option seems almost identical? In this episode, we're going to talk about some of the most fascinating psychological biases that directly impact how and if our prospects buy from us. Why every marketer has to know them. Let's get started. We like to think of ourselves as logical decision makers. It's why we spend so much time comparing options, doing our due diligence, making pros and con lists, or creating spreadsheets, all so we can make what we believe is the best rational decision. But there's something that influences our decisions far more than most of us realize. And even when we do realize, many of us don't like admitting it. Here's the thing. Research has shown time and time again that almost all of our decisions are irrational. The problem is that when we're optimizing our websites, landing pages, funnels, social media posts, and other assets, most of us still start with looking at behavioral targeting, where people came from, what pages they visited, how long they stayed on the pages, where they dropped off. And while this information is valuable, it tells you what's happening and where, it doesn't actually tell you why it's happening. That's what neuromarketing helps us understand. It's about understanding the world behind the click, understanding why people make decisions and how they make them. Once you understand the why, you can create marketing that connects with people on a much deeper level. And that's where cognitive biases come in. Cognitive biases are the mental shortcuts that our brains use to make decisions quickly, especially when we're overloaded with information or uncertainty. Today, I want to talk about 5 of the most common cognitive biases, how they influence your customers' decisions, and what you can do about them in your marketing. Let's start with hyperbolic discounting. Here's a simple question. Would you rather get a $10 coupon today or $50 coupon in 1 year? If you answered a $10 coupon today, that's hyperbolic discounting at work. Hyperbolic discounting is when people who are given 2 similar choices of rewards prefer the one that arrives sooner, even if it's worth less. People tend to prefer an instant reward rather than waiting for one. Here's a quick example. Let's say you're running a friend referral program. Most companies tend to offer a large amount of money, 1 month free, or even an expensive feature for referring potential customers. The catch is that the reward is only applicable once the client signs on. Most people won't bother with referring people as they don't see a quick and close reward. Instead, you could offer a much smaller reward for each referral you receive. Whether it's a small discount or a coupon, you could actually receive many more referrals and make your customers much happier by giving them an instant reward. The takeaway is that if you want people to take action today, you'd get a lot more referrals if you'd make the reward feel immediate. Another cognitive bias that shows up all the time is anchoring. Have you ever noticed how one price can completely change the way you see another? Let's say the first product you see costs $1,000. Then you see another one for $600. Suddenly, $600 doesn't seem so expensive anymore. That's anchoring. Anchoring is a tendency of people to rely on the first piece of information that they received and use that as their anchor in decision making. Once the anchor is set, all decisions are made according to it, regardless of whether it makes sense or not. One of the most famous examples of this in action comes, of course, from Steve Jobs. When Apple introduced the iPad, Steve Jobs didn't immediately reveal the actual price. He first showed a much higher number on the screen, $999, and he kept it on the screen. Then he said, "It's not going to cost this much. In fact, the real price is only $499, and that immediately felt more affordable." That's the power of anchoring. The first number people see shapes how they perceive every number that follows. Let's talk about choice supportive bias. Have you ever bought an item and then found out a competing brand was selling the exact same product for less? Happens all the time, right? That uncomfortable feeling that follows actually doesn't last long. Usually we can almost instantly explain to ourselves, your friend, your spouse, or a family member why your more expensive choice was wiser. That's called choice supportive bias. It's our tendency to attribute a positive perspective to a decision that we've made. Here's a quick real life example. Imagine you're planning a holiday and you book a hotel that costs a little more than the others because the pictures looked nicer, the reviews were great, and it made you feel better about the decision. Then a few days later, you discover that another hotel just down the street has exact same amenities but is $100 less per night. Instead of second guessing your decision, you're going to actually reinforce it. It happens automatically. You may find yourself saying things like, the view and location in the place I booked can't be beat, or the hotel I booked has better service, or the amenities are worth a premium price. Even without actually experiencing either hotel, your brain starts reinforcing why the choice you made was correct. For marketers, this is why testimonials and social proof are so powerful, because once we've purchased something, we want to be assured that we've made a great decision. So seeing quotes and reviews from other people like us who've also made this exact decision helps us feel better. Now, let's talk about false consensus bias. Have you ever assumed that a friend, a partner, or a family member would make the same decision that you would, only to realize that they actually saw things completely differently? That's false consensus bias. It's our tendency, and all people, to overestimate the level of which other people share our beliefs, our attitudes, decisions, and behaviors. The false consensus bias can have a huge effect on your marketing efforts. As marketers, we actually tend to fall into this trap. We assume that our customers think the way that we do, that they care about the same features, that they value the same benefits, or that they'll make the same decisions that we would. But in reality, without running in-depth research, we could find ourselves promoting our product in a way that doesn't actually interest or connect with our clients at all. So how can you use this? Whether you're optimizing a website, a landing page, an ad, a social media campaign, an email, always start with research. Uncover how your audience really makes a buying decision, and then ask yourself whether the content you have on your site reflects how you assumed people make decisions or how they really do. Be sure to refer back to your research, and more importantly, try sending your ideas and your creatives to people who aren't necessarily close to you to get a different opinion. Our final cognitive bias is loss aversion. Now, which would have a bigger emotional impact on you? Losing $100 or finding $100? If losing $100 feels worse than finding them, then you've experienced loss aversion. Loss aversion is people's tendency to prefer avoiding losses to acquiring gains. This bias is used a lot in different marketing campaigns, offering last opportunity promotions and highlighting that their potential customers may lose out on a sale if they don't act immediately. Think about Amazon Prime Day. How many times have you found yourself buying something because it was on sale, even if you weren't planning to buy it that day? It's not necessarily because you needed it. It's because you didn't want to miss the opportunity to get it at that price. This is why countdown timers work and why many e-commerce sites have small banners that say things like only 3 items left. That's loss aversion in action. So the question isn't whether these cognitive biases exist. They do. The question is, are you taking them into account when you're creating your marketing assets? The next time you're building a landing page, writing an ad, or launching a campaign, ask yourself, am I only looking at what my customers are doing, or am I taking the time to understand why they're doing it? Being aware of these cognitive biases could help you avoid pitfalls in your campaigns and increase your conversion by simply using these biases in your favor. If you'd like to learn more about these cognitive biases, I actually have a complete guide on them with dozens of examples and how-tos on my website, getuplift.co. You can download it for free and start leveraging them immediately. I'll see you next week on another episode of Heart Before Cut.